Will it be memories of Aaron Rodgers for the Packers for the National Football League? Matt LaFleur meeting with reporters yesterday. See, what happens is they have their press conference after the game, and then I don't know if it's by rule or by convention or whatever, they meet with the media a day or two after for their last gasp, their last hurrah, their last time of being asked questions by reporters. Matt LaFleur, the Packers coach, had his yesterday. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. Let's start with whether or not he's finished in Green Bay. Let's hear from Matt LaFleur with all the things that you would expect him to say about keeping one of the great quarterbacks in NFL history on Lambeau Field and not anywhere else.
Yeah, I sat down and talked to Aaron today for quite some time. I think we're all a little numb to the situation right now. And so I would say that what we talked about, I'm definitely going to keep between himself and him and myself. But, we're hopeful that he'll be back next year, obviously. I mean, this guy has done so much for such a long period of time for this organization, for this city, for this team. And so, I want to be respectful of his process, whatever he needs to go through to make the best decision for himself. And certainly we would love for him to be a Packer and be a Packer until the day he decides to retire.
First observation I have, why are they numb 2 days after the game? Like, did they not entertain or envision the possibility they were going to lose? Is it that stunning? Is it that shocking that the 49ers scored more points in 60 minutes of football that they did, that they can't function 2 days later? Well, we're all still numb. How? You had a whole week to contemplate what you were dealing with.
Well, they don't contemplate that.
In advance,
they don't contemplate that. You know that.
Well, they apparently didn't. They didn't contemplate it enough.
No, well, I mean, most teams don't. I mean, what do you think? Did you think Tom Brady was contemplating losing to the Rams last week? I mean, again, we can't.
Yes. Yes, you have to contemplate it so you properly fear it, so you properly prepare for it, so you properly avoid it.
Well, listen, it crosses your mind. You don't contemplate it and think about it and prepare for it so you can go, well, let me prepare for it so I can feel a little bit better and not so numb 24 to 48 hours after. They expected to win the Super Bowl. They're the number 1 seed. They were at home. It was devastating. I understand them being still numb. He's shell-shocked there. Again, here we go. Like, hey, he's put his life and soul into it. Do you want it to matter to him or not? It matters to him. He can't believe that happened. He was at home with a 7-point lead and
I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Exclusive. I think that you can. And listen, this is a guy that got 12 years of Catholic education. Everything I do is based in fear. I think you constantly think about how things can go wrong. And if you constantly think about how things can go wrong and prepare yourself for the fact that they can and will go wrong, you're not numb when they do go wrong, and you're better suited to keep them from going wrong. That's been my process. I'm just surprised there aren't more coaches that do the same thing.
Well, I know. Well, no one's following a pro football talk, the man, the myth, the legend, as far as coaching expertise. Sorry there, Slugger. You're awesome at a lot of things,
maybe they should.
They're not going to start following your lead on something you've never done before.
Maybe they wouldn't be numb. I'd like to think I understand the human condition a little bit after living for 56 years.
Well, then
maybe
you
they wouldn't be
don't,
numb.
Mike. You don't. If it's a heartbreaking thing and it's 48 hours, it's numbing. What do you mean? Then you don't understand. You're proving that you don't understand it. It's his
Maybe
life
they don't
is in
understand.
No, they do. Anybody would feel that way. I mean, what do you mean? That's a normal emotion to feel numb or be shell-shocked a little bit about that type of thing. You put your heart and soul. He hasn't had a day off the whole year. He thinks he's got a team that can go to the Super Bowl. He loses to a guy that's his friend, that in a way that they don't expect to lose. Come on, you know that. Get out of here.
No. I just look, part of me's having fun with it, but part of me is, okay, why are you surprised? You had 2 possible outcomes. You win or you lose. This isn't some rogue wind that blew through your life that would cause you to be numb, something you didn't expect. A bus runs over your pinky toe and severs it while you're crossing the street. I mean, this is something that you had 2 outcomes. You win or you lose. I don't know why it's so shocking that they lost. I mean, we've seen how crazy the NFL is. Why would anybody be shocked if they lose a game? The other team is trying just as hard as you are to win. Stuff happens. So, I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole. I'm just surprised that there's any any numb, because it's not some, oh my God, I never saw that coming. Well, yeah, you're going to win or you're going to lose. So, are they going to lose Aaron Rodgers? Okay, and they're saying all the right things. What else are they going to say?
Yeah, that's
right. Of course, they want to keep him, two-time MVP. I saw that. I think it was Marcus Spears on ESPN yesterday. I saw a tweet to this effect that, and I'm not saying I agree with them. I just think it's an intriguing way to look at it. Maybe the Packers should just say it's time for you to get the hell out. We're done having this sort of Damocles over our head. We're done dealing with this. We're done being held hostage by the whims of Aaron Rodgers. We're just done. We're going to move forward. We don't, that's how they finally arrived at their plan, I believe, to get Brett Favre to move on. Now, they had a guy that they felt pretty damn good about who had been sitting on the bench for 3 years.
Right.
But when they went to Brett Favre 14 years ago, and I can't believe it's been 14 years now, and said, we need to know what you're doing 2008 season now in February. We need an answer now, not later, now. And they knew in February his answer would be, I don't want to play. And, okay, you said the magic words. Let's seal the door shut. Let's put the furniture behind it. Let's go draft 5 quarterbacks, and we don't have to worry about this guy coming back, and how foolish they were. They definitely were numb when that happened in July of 2008. But I don't know. I think that they shouldn't do that. But I'm kind of surprised that it's a talking point that isn't immediately ridiculous. I think it's at least worth thinking about whether or not it's time to just say, thanks for the memories, Aaron Rodgers. You go ahead and do whatever you want to do. We're going to go forward with someone else.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's hard to do. That's hard to do. First off, like you've brought it up many times, and I think it's very real and a good point by you. And Favre is very aware. I mean, Rodgers is very aware of how Favre handled that situation, right? So I don't think, again, we've talked about this a little during the season. When he thinks about things, I don't expect this to be a drug out, process here where it's in the middle of March, end of March, early April, and we're still going, we're not sure what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. I would expect Rodgers has some common sense here to do this at some point here in the next month at least, just to figure that out. To say to the Green Bay aspect of, well, maybe we should just get rid of it and not have to deal with him holding hostage. Well, first off, again, Mike, that goes back to a lot of things we've talked about. The issue they're in with Rodgers right now, they have no one to blame but themselves. So maybe they should stop causing issues, is what I would say a little there. And then, the last thing is, wow, it's not easy just to go, hey, let's not be held hostage by a guy that's the 2-time MVP, and the guy that's the best player on your football team still. That's where I just don't imagine that happening. Like you said with Favre, that was different. Every year it got drug out until March, April. We don't know what he's going to do. It might have been later than that some years, and they had an option behind that they felt comfortable with. I don't get that sense that there's the same feeling in Green Bay there to where they're like, well, if we get rid of Rodgers, we feel good about Love in the future there. I don't get that sense. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's why I just don't see that happening at least.
Here's the real question, though.
Yeah.
Will they be numb after he leaves?
You're funny. Wait, you're such a jerk. But here's a to me more about like what I'm more intrigued by was a little bit what we talked about yesterday. I don't imagine Rodgers walking away or going to a new team. But the factor is what does happen with the roster and the salary cap situation with their whole football team, and how is that affected? And then is he going to get into a conversation with them about that here in the next few weeks to kind of get a feel for which way the wind's blowing as far as what they're going to do in the offseason? Because, again, we got into the start of regular last year where we had all the talk about Rodgers wants them to commit to him, right? Maybe a little bit more money guaranteed so he knows he's there for the next 2 or 3 years. Are they going to be willing to do that? I would think Rodgers still wants that. They're going to have to pay Devontae Adams like he's the top receiver in football. So you got to do that. Let alone they got salary cap issues, and how are they going to add to a roster that we've seen for the third year in a row is missing an elite player on both sides of the field that can help them beat the Niners and the Buccaneers of the world to get to a Super Bowl. So those are the things I'm a little interested in there. Mike, what do you think about that?
Well, I've said for weeks now, and I don't want to lose sight of it given that we're actually in this process. We're in this gulf of what are the Packers going to do. If they want him to stay, I think job number one is to approach him and say, Aaron, look, you've been the best player in football the last 2 years. You're the MVP. What you've been doing is incredible. We've tried to put enough around you to get there. We're going to continue to try to do it. But we understand the time has come to properly compensate you. Oh, by the way, we don't have an owner who jams a bunch of extra money into his or her pockets and goes and buys a super yacht with it, so we can reinvest the funds that we have, including the money for nothing stock certificate sale that is still ongoing if you'd like to have a piece of the Green Bay Packers, even though you can't resell it for a profit and it has no rights or powers or other things other than a bunch of asterisks as to what it isn't. 2 years, $100 million, fully guaranteed. What's wrong with that? I know that some people may fall out of their chairs at the idea. Look at
where it's going. Yeah, I hear you.
Look at who it's going to.
Yeah.
Look at where the market is.
Right.
Look at how much money they have. Their balance sheet is publicly available. See, that's the thing for the Packers. There's no mystery about how much money is there. You talked the other day about the Broncos and the cash issues they had when you were there, and they had to defer your signing bonus until money started to come through the cash register during the season. It's an open book in Green Bay, literally.
Yeah.
And Rodgers is smart enough to look at a financial statement, an annual report, and say they can afford this, they can afford this. Salary cap. Look, saying that we've got cap issues is code for we either don't feel like dealing with it or we don't want to deal with it.
Yeah,
because
I hear
if
that.
you want to deal with it,
you're right. They
can deal
figure
with
it out. Right.
They can structure a contract that would allow them to pay Aaron Rodgers $100 million over the next 2 years, fully guaranteed. And when Patrick Mahomes is at 45, when Josh Allen's at 43, now they proved the other night that they deserve every penny of it. But Aaron Rodgers has proven he deserves it too. My point is this. You want to end this for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
You want this to be over. You want this to be done.
Right.
You give him 2 years, $100 million, fully guaranteed. Period. And I think that would end it now. If you make him that offer right now, it's over and it's done.
I agree. I think it's something in that ballpark. Now, you give him the security. He knows he's a guy. He knows it's not a lame duck thing to where next year, again, if he doesn't win the MVP, it plays good, but it's not quite up to MVP level to where he feels like, hey, they're trying to make the switch here and go to Jordan Love. Yeah, he's not going to like that aspect. I really think in my heart of hearts, and I think you feel the same way now, right, that he wants to stay there. I don't get the feeling or hear chatter from anybody I know in NFL to think that, he's still unhappy there. I think he's unhappy about what happened, sure, but it sounds like things have been smoothed over between Gutekunst and Mark Murphy and him. We talked about how the team, I think he's in a good spot with the players and the coaches. That was never an issue. I with Rodgers, I will be shocked if he's not back playing football, and be shocked if he's not back playing with the Packers. Again, I just think he's too legacy aware. I still think he's desperate to chase this one more Super Bowl, and once that one more Super Bowl, it puts you in another stratosphere, one championship compared to two when it comes to quarterbacks and Super Bowl rings. You do go into a different stratosphere once you've won two. I think he is aware of that. I think he's very aware that, man, that can't be my last game at Lambeau. I mean, we scored 10 points. I wasn't electric. The offense wasn't electric. We lost a big game. I will be shocked. In fact, of course, I'd be more shocked if he retired than Tom Brady at this point. And I didn't think I'd be saying that maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, but I will say that now.
I didn't think I'd be saying it 3 or 4 days ago. Frankly.
Yeah, right. You're right.
Brady
You're right. Yep, I know we will.
And look, for the same reason Aaron Rodgers should be hyper aware of the way that the Brett Favre tenure ended in Green Bay, the Packers should be hyper aware of how it ended. They don't want Aaron Rodgers to resurface with a competitor. They don't want to have to worry about Aaron Rodgers adding to his legacy elsewhere. Look at what they had to sweat out with Brett Favre and how close Brett Favre came to winning as many Super Bowls with the Vikings as he did with the Packers.
Right.
In 2009,
right,
and swept them in 2009. They don't want to deal with that. Not that he's going to end up with a division rival, but they just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
If they can find a way to land this plane after all these years and learn from what happened in 2008 and not do what they did in 2008. I think it's an obligation on both sides. But for the Packers, part of the problem, part of the responsibility for them is to acknowledge that this guy's getting Jared Goff money, and it's time for that to change.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're spot on there, Mike. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think it's a good point you made, and I think it's about the ballpark as far as money and probably years to where now you don't have to deal with it. To your point, it's over. There's no distraction. You got 2 years of just Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay. Let's see where it goes from there. He'll be 40 years old by that time, and then you reassess, certainly. But I think that's the best way to go as far as going in the future, build the team, best for Rodgers, sign up Devontae Adams, figure out the salary cap, and you're right back in the mix of things next year, and you're not going to have to deal with any distractions or all of that talk that we've dealt with up in Green Bay for the last 2 years.
And time, as they say, is of the essence on this, even though they're just getting started into their offseason, because the coaching carousel, which is still spinning on high, and it's odd. We're going to talk about that later, but we're 16 days now into this cycle, and there hasn't been a single head coach hired. Once the dust settles on the coaches, the offensive coordinators, the rest of the staff, mainly the offensive coordinators, that's when the quarterback carousel starts to fire up. And even though the new league year doesn't begin until March 16, we've seen time and again that the planets align ahead of time. January 30 last year, just 5 days away are we from the anniversary of the Matthew Stafford to the Rams trade. It's actually going to happen the day that Matthew Stafford hosts the NFC Championship, the 1-year anniversary of that trade.
It's amazing.
But these things happen quickly. So if Aaron Rodgers is going to leave, if he is going to find the perfect spot for himself somewhere, and the availability of that perfect spot becomes the leverage to get what he wants in Green Bay, you got to start moving quickly.
You do.
Because spots are going to fill up. Now, some of these teams, like, we saw up until the draft last year, the night before the draft, the 49ers were ready to throw their plan A out the window if they could get Aaron Rodgers. So maybe with Rodgers,
that's that rare kind
it's not
of thing.
as critical.
Yeah.
But still, the sooner that you implement your plan for where you're going to go next, the less complicated the process of making it happen will be. You don't have a team in a situation where they've already embarked on implementing their plan for 2022, and now they have to go undo it in some way, whether it's a cap consequence or whatever. We don't have to worry about trying to put toothpaste back in the tube. We've been able to go after the guy that we would have wanted if we knew we were going to get him, and we knew we could get him, so we got him. That's one of the reasons why Aaron Rodgers wants to and needs to move quickly with this.
100%. I mean, one, you don't want to be a jerk. You don't want to be that guy that does that to, the organization that you've been a part of has been special to you that long. So you don't want to do that, one, for your own benefit there of how you look in the public eye. You don't want to do that to the Green Bay Packers. And to your point, more than anything, and what jumps out to me always with that situation, you want to get it going. One, so you can assess the best spot. But two, get in that spot. If you have decided you want to move on from Green Bay and go somewhere else, two, get there and get going to where, again, it's not the start of May, which could have happened last year, where now you're trying to learn an offense from Kyle Shanahan or something like that, and trying to, figure out what do we like and what do we don't like, and let's get on the same page, and, hey, let's have the same conversation I had with LaFleur about audibles at the line of scrimmage and do all those things. You want to get to a spot to where you can carve out your niche as far as what you expect of the team, learning the offense, hey, new offensive coordinator and head coach, let's get on the same page about things I'd like to put in the offense, and that's where I would think if you are thinking about making a move and getting out of town, just like we saw with Brady 2 years ago, it happened rather fast, so he could get down there and start working with players and getting illegal playbooks and illegal practices with the footballs and all that. That's what I would do too. So that's what you need to do, and definitely have to keep aware of for your own selfish reasons.
Remember that weird story of how he ended up in Byron Leftwich's house, or Byron Leftwich
the neighbor,
wandered into the wrong house,
right.
with the bag of footballs.
Yes, right.
I'm just dropping off a playbook. Oh, I also happen to have a bag of footballs with me.
Right.
I take a bag of footballs everywhere I go
Gronk,
because it is such
Gronk had the playbook for like a month or so.
To carry around.
Right.
Until he said he didn't.
Yeah,
Months.
right.
I had it for weeks. Oh, I was joking. Oh, funny joke, Gronk.
Right.
Funny joke. I had a playbook for 3 months. Where's the punchline, Gronk? Still waiting for the punchline 2 years later to that very funny and delightful anecdote from Rob Gronkowski. Hey, you mentioned well, I got one other thing to say before I forget it.
Go ahead.
It becomes easier to make the transition if Nathaniel Hackett ends up being the new head coach of the Denver Broncos and he's one of the finalists. And I just laugh every time I see his name connected to that job because I don't think he'd be a front runner currently for a head coaching job in the NFL if he didn't come with, you know how the part of the interview is, here's who's going to be on my staff. I think here's who my quarterback will be is a big part of the interview process too. If you can say with any degree of certainty, I think I can get Aaron Rodgers here, I think that fuels your candidacy to be the next coach of the Broncos.
The thought has crossed my mind. It definitely has. I just went, wait. The team that we rumored the most of maybe getting Aaron Rodgers now might get a guy that's from that staff who we've heard Rodgers gush about, and that to me that was very intriguing when I started to hear that name as far as Nathaniel Hackett at the top of the list. And listen, I think Nathaniel's qualified for it. You know that. You've heard me talk about him a little bit. I mean, Nate Hackett to me, I was around him in my early years in Tampa Bay. He was there under John Gruden, so I know what he's made of certainly. But I always point back to first off. When he's gotten to Green Bay there, they've done a lot of good things. They've said it. He adds ideas to the offense. He understands quarterbacking. And the one thing I always will point at about Nate Hackett to go, hey, everybody in the NFL, wake the hell up. He had the number 6 offense in football with Blake Bortles as his quarterback. I don't know if that doesn't say, holy crap, I had a hot year calling plays and did good things, and I don't know what does. He formulated an offense around a guy who could only throw 4 routes on the football field, and they became the number 6 offense in football. So that's where I'm a fan of Nathaniel Hackett. I really am. I can understand it. They got everything you want as far as weapons, offense, things like that in Denver. He knows how to coach quarterback. He's going to implement the system. But the Rodgers thing, I'm with you, Mike. I've been perking up with that the whole time going, is there something here? This is a little scary if I'm Green Bay to let Nathaniel Hackett go to Denver, the team that might try to, court Rodgers here.
Nathaniel Hackett, by the way, the son of Paul Hackett, who was the coach of the Pitt Panthers in 1991.
Yeah.
A coaching staff that included receivers coach John Gruden,
right,
outside linebackers coach Marvin Lewis, and graduate assistant Mike McCarthy.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Unbelievable. Almost like that 92 Mike Holmgren's first year where it was Gruden on the staff and Andy Reid on the staff, and just the list goes on and on of the future head coaches.
Morningweg, Mariucci, they are all
somewhere.
There. Right, yeah.
Well, it all depends on the Packers, I think, as to where Aaron Rodgers finishes. And I think a lot needs to happen. This can't take a lot of time. Rodgers probably already knows what he wants. Move one on this chessboard, though. And maybe this is something that Rodgers hopes the Packers organization will figure out on their own without nudging, without prompting, without any demands. Doesn't want to have to say, pay me, F you, pay me, repeatedly, one of the favorite moments from Goodfellas. But they should be able to figure out what needs to be done. They've got the balance sheets, too. They've got full access to who's chewing up the money, and they know how much they're paying Aaron Rodgers. And maybe step one is for them to say, we're going to take care of this. We're going to pay you for what you've done the last 2 years and for what you're going to do the next 2 years. Here's 2 years, $100 million. Problem solved, boom, over. Aaron Rodgers remains a Packer for the next 2 years, and then we don't have to deal with it until 2024. That if they really want him, that's the easiest way to pull the plug on all of this, Chris.
I agree there. I'm with you 100%. I think that's the way it's what we talked about last offseason. We know that's something he wants. He just wants a little commitment to know that he's the guy going forward, and we don't have to talk about this anymore. And he doesn't have to worry about, now we're done with you because you didn't win the MVP and we're going to move on. So I think that's a very real thing, a real aspect of this. And, again, I would be shocked. I just feel like all things are pointing towards Rodgers coming back to the Green Bay Packers, and it'll be one more run there, and we'll see where it goes after 2 or 3 years.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.